never again in my life will I have that. So how dare you? Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Hope you're good, hope you're well. Okay, today, different kind of video. I thought, do some reflecting, yeah? And I thought, what have my exes taught me? No, I'm joking, that's not the thought process. However, this video is about lessons from my exes, because before I settled down with the greatest man in the world, I had boyfriends, as many do. And now that I'm older, wiser, mature, I can look back and think, what did they teach me? And it's not all like, men are trash. It's also stuff that they actually taught me about myself, some self-reflection, which is something I never used to do. But without further ado, let's get into the video. So lesson number one, actually, interestingly enough, is that I am not perfect. Believe it or not. Back when I was younger, I feel like in relationships, I thought I did no wrong. And I think I've mentioned this before, but it was basically because I didn't intend to do any wrong. And therefore, if my intentions were good, I was good. No, I think I remember, do I remember briefly one of my exes in his breakup speech saying that, I think saying something about that, like how I basically thought like I didn't do anything wrong, or I didn't take accountability, something about that. And at the time I was like, whatever, shut up. I didn't say that, but I was thinking that. But in hindsight, it's true. It's something that I've had to learn over time, that even if I didn't mean to do something bad, it's good to reflect and be like, okay, how did you, Adella, contribute to the situation? And that's something that I feel like sometimes I might take too far now, where I'm like, oh, I was wrong and I have to bring it back. But I do think it's definitely a good lesson for anyone to take away, really, is to look at how you contributed to the bad situation or a downfall of a relationship and try not to make those same mistakes again. Next lesson was to have your own opinions. When I was younger, as many are, but not always, right? Because it's still a trait I struggle with now, because I'm quite a neutral person. It's having your own opinions and not letting the love of your life, or so you think at the time, sway your opinion, which is something that I used to do a lot in previous relationships. I'd maybe in the back of my mind have my thoughts, have my feelings, have my values, but then I was quite easily swayed. And this is even outside of relationships. So I think it's really important, because if you are naive, as I might have been, it's easy to get swayed by other people's opinions. And how far that goes is really dependent on the situation, but it can obviously go as far as to make you go against your values or something like that. Third lesson, which kind of ties in with the second, is to compromise but don't conform. So that is something that, again, being somebody who was a bit neutral and easily swayed, it wasn't uncommon for me to conform to the person I was becoming, like the person I was with, which is not bad. I do it now. I'm a bit of a sponge, so I start to pick up traits of people that I spend a lot of time with, or if I'm talking to that person, I almost imitate them subconsciously. That's okay to an extent. However, in a relationship, you don't want to compromise who you are. If you're a fun person, if you're bubbly, if you're talkative, etc., you don't want to like get rid of that for the sake of being like the other person. And again, you don't want to you don't want to conform to the point of losing your own values or doing something that you normally wouldn't do. However, compromise is important, because again, it's not all about you. You're in a relationship with another person. And I know sometimes we're taught, what can you bring for me? But you also have to consider how you can help and support the other person. Otherwise, are you their child or are you their boo? Fourth lesson was to make a list, and I did, and I got my list. Because the reason I say this is because there's a lot of things in hindsight that I realized some of my exes didn't quite have, non-negotiables that they didn't quite meet, or non-negotiables that they went against. And had I had that list, it doesn't have to be a physical list, but had I known what I wanted in a partner and what was a non-negotiable, I probably wouldn't have been in those relationships, or I would have exited them sooner than I did. Make sense? Next up is don't rush. Slow down. Don't rush. In hindsight, except for Keith, my relationships before that, they actually were quite rushed in terms of how long it took from us meeting or us talking to us being in a relationship, or even the period from intentionally talking and in a relationship was quite quick. And actually before Keith, I had never, except for one that I forced, but I'd never been actually asked to be in a relationship. It kind of just happened, and it happened so quickly that, yeah, it was just like, oh, we like each other, now we're dating. And what I would say is don't rush, because again, had I taken my time, like Keith and I were together, we're talking for we're friends for like 6 months, and then we were intentional talking, whatever, for about a month, and then we started a relationship. That gave me plenty of time to get to know him, to know if he's someone I even want to be with, whereas previously it would be a matter of weeks and that's not enough time, and then things would crop up in the early stages, because I actually haven't had any long relationships, so things would crop up in the early stages that would be the downfall of the relationship. Whereas had I spent that time being friends with them, I would have noticed it earlier, hopefully, I imagine, and then I would have just not been in those relationships. No regrets, but if I was to give advice to my younger self, I'd just say don't rush, take your time. They ain't going nowhere, or if they are, then bye. This one is interesting, but it is, how do I word it? Listen to other people. Other people's opinions do matter if those are people that you trust and you value. So obviously don't be swayed by people's opinions too much. However, the ex I'm thinking about, my family did not like him. My sister didn't like him. My mum would never say she doesn't like someone, but she didn't like him. My friends, I don't think they liked him that much either, to be honest. But I would always defend him and be like, oh no, he's just this. These times they were right. And if I wasn't so infatuated, I probably would have heard them and seen it for myself. And in hindsight, yes, he was everything that they said he was. Not a bad person, just not my kind of person, and some traits that are really important to me now he didn't have at the time. So what I would say is know who your people are, know who you trust, whether it's parents, friends, family, whatever, and ask them their opinion. Or if the thing is, if a lot of people don't like someone, you got to question, why do they not like that person? Next lesson is don't ignore the red flags. I believe I've done a video on red flags, so I will link it here, link it down below. But don't ignore the red flags. It's so easy when you fancy someone and you just make so many excuses because you really just want to be with that person. So you tell yourself that you're checking them out, seeing if they're the right person, but you've already decided. And all the red flags that come your way are now amber or even green because you just want to be with that person. I would say do not ignore the red flags. Know that these red flags are not going to just disappear. And if it's something that you said you didn't want before, stick to your guns no matter how cute they are, okay? Next up is let go and let God. This is more of a, there's two parts to this. First of all, I was very big at the future. So if I met someone I liked, I'm like, that's my husband. I'm gonna marry them. That is it. This is the end. We're gonna live happily ever after based off this 1 month of me knowing them and their perfect self, yeah? Let go and let God. I don't know if something's gonna work out, but God knows, so why am I worrying? Second part of that lesson is actually after the woods, so after the breakup. There was one breakup in particular that I was distraught. I'm talking teenage me crying in bed, tissues not eating, mama have to force me out of the bed to eat dinner. In hindsight, I'm like, ugh. But at the time, yeah, I just thought, but this is my husband. This is my husband, what? My plans are ruined. These times, obviously God had other plans for me. And had I trusted him at the time, I would have known that. And I might have saved myself some heartbreak, although heartbreak is kind of hard to avoid. You kind of just have to let it feel. But yeah, let go, let God. Don't try to control everything. And if something doesn't work out, it obviously wasn't meant to be. And go about your life. Last but not least, number one lesson that my exes, bless their hearts, have taught me is to know your source. Know your source. Because listen, I said it in a previous video, yeah? I'm buff. You're buff, I'm buff, everybody's buff, yeah? So know your source. There was one ex in particular at the time. I didn't know my source. To my defense, I had recently glowed up. So maybe I still had my ugly duckling mentality, if you know what I mean. Not glowed up, but I was young and then I wasn't young anymore. Do you know what I mean? I thought he was out of my league. I really did think he was out of my league, and that definitely showed in the way that I felt about him and the things that I probably let slide. And I guess it was a bit infatuation, idolizing him. But it wasn't cute. In hindsight, I'm like, Adella, come on, know your sauce. And I think at the time I did, but I still didn't think I was as saucy as he was. And never again in my life will I have that. Well, like, I have Keith now, so he knows my sauce, I know my sauce, I know his sauce, it's all good. But know your sauce from day one. Because what happens when you don't know your sauce, and when you think you can't get someone, and then when you get there, now you're acting like they're way out of your league and you don't want to lose them, and you'll be doing stuff to keep them, and you think that the ground they poop gold. That's what happens. So biggest advice would be know your sauce, aka know your worth. Don't let anyone treat you less than. Because you know what I said in my last video? Do you remember the video about is attraction important? plug. Or there. The thing about that is there's many people in this world, right? So how dare you be with someone who doesn't think highly of you, or as highly of you as they ought to, or as highly of you as about 1,000 other people would. So do you want to really spend time, or the rest of your life potentially, with someone who doesn't know your worth? But how are they gonna know your worth? You don't know your worth, baby girl. Anyways, not to go all preachy on you, but those are the lessons that my exes have taught me. And actually, my exes are they're not waste men. They're cool people. Yeah, they're cool people. Yeah, they're cool people. I'm sure they're gonna make, or they are making, I don't know what the situation is right now. Maybe they're making somebody else's daughter very happy. And I'm glad. They weren't for me, but they taught me some valuable lessons. And I think it's more about maybe this time of my life that I was with them and the person that I was at the time. And we thank God for growth. We thank God for lessons. We thank God for hindsight. We thank God for reflection. And we thank God that we thank God for putting phones on silent. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that video, guys. Let me know down below. I want to know, what have your exes taught you? Have I missed anything? They taught me how to kiss? No, jokes. All right, I'll see you guys in my next video. Comment down below, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you're not already. Bye-bye.